Fisher is my name. You are aboard the USS Focal Point, our patrol boat in which we patrol the choppy waters of America's public life, looking without pause, without ceasing, for the coordinates where truth intersects with politics. Great to have you on board. Our commander is on the bridge. The scriptures, our nautical charts, the Holy Spirit serves as our navigator, and I serve as your loyal, humble, and cheerful first mate. Welcome aboard. Now, we were talking about the campaign for governor in Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli and Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe's the guy that's caught up in that electric car scam with that plant down in Horn City, Mississippi. So that's touching him there in Virginia. And running for lieutenant governor is E.W. Jackson. We've had him on this program before, not too long ago, in connection with his campaign for lieutenant governor. He is a staunch conservative. He's a social conservative, absolutely unapologetic about his stand against homosexuality and his stand on behalf of the sanctity of human life. And he's telling the truth about what's going on in the black community. He's not into this hyphenization business, thinks we need to get away from that. That just balkanizes this country. It segregates us. It separates us. We're not about race in America. We are not about skin color. We are not about ethnic heritage. We are about assimilation. And that's a real problem. We'll get to the immigration issue here in a little bit. But the assimilation is a huge problem. That's the number one concern that I have. That's one of the reasons I'm for border security, is we've got to insist on assimilation. If we want to preserve what has made America what it is, there must be assimilation. In other words, those who want to live here must be prepared to adopt our customs, to adopt our values, to adopt our traditions, to adopt our flag, to adopt our history, and to adopt our heroes, and to adopt our language. If they're not prepared to do that, then we've got to say, look, this is not somebody who is going to enrich this country. They're going to weaken this country, and our immigration policy, whatever it's about, ought to be about strengthening this country, and assimilation's got to be a key element of that. I read a story this week, got it in the stack here somewhere, about Univision, which is a Spanish-speaking cable network, is the number one cable network in America in the 18 to, I think, 49 age group. Number one cable network in America. Now, overall, they're fourth because you get some older demographics that skew toward Fox News and other places. But ladies and gentlemen, this is an entire segment of our population that is just not assimilating. If you're going to have unity as a culture, you have got to have unity. You've got to have linguistic unity so we can talk to each other, so we can all read the same road signs, so we can all fill out the same forms, so we can all read the same electoral ballots. I mean, it's absolutely essential that we have linguistic unity in order to be culturally unified. And the fact that it doesn't matter what language it is. That's not my point. It's not the language itself. It's the fact that a foreign language cable television network is now the number one cable network in America. It's not a good sign for our future. Anyway, E.W. Jackson, I don't know how I got off on that. E.W. Jackson has been strong. We played the soundbite where he said welfare has been worse for the black community than slavery. Liberal welfare policies have done more damage to the African-American family, the black family, than slavery, than the Civil War, than Jim Crow laws, and the KKK put together. And he isn't backing down at all from that. And he talks here in this soundbite, E.W. Jackson, audio clip 12, Jeff, talks here about what he's going to do on the campaign trail and would do as lieutenant governor.
The first thing I'm doing, I do now, which is, which is I let people know that I prefer American of African descent. I think we got to stop balkanizing ourselves and racializing ourselves, and first of all, start thinking of ourselves as Americans, see these problems as American problems, not as black problems or white problems, but as American problems, and come together to work on them. I certainly intend to go into these communities where at-risk youth are. I've been doing it all my life in ministry, and talk to them about the need for being married before you bear children, stop treating your bodies as sexual objects, for men to stay in the home and raise the children that they father. Or if this is not a short-term wave your wand solution, We can't solve this overnight, but we've got to begin to rebuild the family because, in my view, that's where the problem really lies.
So that's Bishop E.W. Jackson, hopes to be the lieutenant governor of the state of Virginia. Now, I want to play a couple of sound bites from President Obama's speech yesterday. It was a vast wasteland of a speech. Even Niles Gardner, who writes for the London Telegraph, I forget the way he described this speech, but basically it was just a worthless speech. And in the speech, President Obama talked all about how he was going to be for the middle class, and we've got to go to work on the middle class, and we've got to build this economy from the middle out. So we've got to focus on jobs. We've got to focus laser-like on jobs. This is 19th pivot to jobs. Things are getting worse instead of better. Told you yesterday, this was the Fisher factoid of the day for yesterday. For every person that's got a job, while President Obama has been president, for every person that's got a job, gotten a job, 2 people have gone on food stamps. 2 to 1 going on welfare versus getting a job where they can take care of themselves, they can be self-reliant, they can provide for their families. They're becoming dependent on government rather than being dependent upon themselves, which is the American way. You depend on yourself with God's help to take care of your needs, take care of the people that are depending upon you, and then protect some discretionary income to give to people that are in need. Now, as President Obama, this just cracks me up. I'm going to play these two kind of back-to-back. I'll set them up in between, Emily. But this first clip, here is President Obama, fancies himself the greatest orator that ever lived. A lot of liberals still think of him that way, the greatest orator since the time of Cicero. And, oh, man, I just read the transcript of this, and I said, I have got to actually hear him say this. This is, I don't know, it just sounds so empty and fatuous given what's going on with our economy. But here is President Obama yesterday trying to energize the masses.
Well, America, we've made it through the worst of yesterday's wins. We just have to have the courage to keep moving forward. We've got to set our eyes on the horizon. We will find an ocean of tomorrows. We will find a sky of tomorrows for the American people and for this great country that we love.
Oh, man. And we will find an ocean of tomorrows. What does that even mean? We will find a sky of tomorrows for the American people. Well, I mean, on somebody else's lips, that might actually kind of be believable or have some impact. But here is the greatest orator in the history of humanity, and I will flat out guarantee you that if you are one of the greatest orators, I will guarantee you, let me put it to you this way. When you talk about the great orators in human history, I will flat out guarantee you that Winston Churchill never used the word stuff in his entire political career. Here is the greatest orator in the world using it twice in one paragraph. Let's listen.
And by the way, this isn't a Democratic idea. Republicans built a lot of stuff. This is the land of Lincoln. Lincoln was all about building stuff. First Republican president. And yet, as a share of our economy, we invest less in our infrastructure than we did 2 decades ago.
That's the greatest orator that ever lived. Republicans built a lot of stuff. Lincoln was all about building stuff. And that's what we can do in this ocean of tomorrows, this sky of tomorrows. Let us renew our dedication to build stuff as we enter into the ocean of tomorrows. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Jimmy, Warner Robins, Georgia. Number to call, by the way, is 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Jimmy, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Mr. Fisher.
Howdy.
I wanted to take just a moment to make an observation about the mayoral race in New York. I'm a political junkie, so even though I'm in Georgia, I follow all these things very closely.
Uh-huh.
And what I have observed is amongst liberals, a lot of liberals are trying to separate his so-called qualifications as a political leader from his personal morality, or rather lack thereof.
You talking about Anthony Weiner?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a military officer. I have had positions of command, people working for me, and adultery is still a violation in the UCMJ, and when I have had to deal with that issue in the past, my first reaction is I got to get rid of this person.
Yeah.
And it's not because of the morality. It's not because of anything in Scripture. My approach has always been, look, if this individual can betray someone that they have sworn to love and honor and cherish and keep themselves unto only for their whole life, how much more easily could they stab me in the back or anyone else, any of the other troops around us?
Yeah.
That's just a risk that I cannot afford to take.
Yeah, because that goes to the issue of character. And, I think President Truman kind of put it like, if you can't believe a promise that a man makes to his wife, why would you believe a promise that he would make to the American people? Because obviously that's a far more important and far more solemn commitment and solemn promise. I mean, every promise is important, but you put them on a scale. The promise you make to your wife on your wedding day, I mean, that's the most important. When I would do wedding ceremonies as a pastor, that's one of the things I would say to the guests as part of my introductory remarks. Look, these two people are going to make the most profound commitments to each other today that one human being can make to another. And I'd say to the guests, look, you're here to be witnesses to that, to bear witness to that, and then to support them and help them to keep that commitment in the years to come. Well, that's a great comment, Jimmy. Anything else you want to add?
No, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's a great, that's a great observation. And what Jimmy is saying, look, this is a military guy speaking. When you got people under your command, you've got adultery as violation of the military code of justice, uniform code of military justice. And he finds somebody pulling the stunts that Anthony Weiner has pulled. He would say, look, as an officer, I cannot trust this guy. I can't trust this guy with authority. I can't delegate important responsibilities to him because I cannot trust him to be faithful to the task. If he won't be faithful to his wife, why would he be faithful to his country? Why would he be faithful to his oath to follow leadership in the military? Why would he be faithful to his oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States? 888-589-8840, number to call. We'll be right back with more of your calls and more content. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.